Like, she got to go to Disneyland for free, and that was about it. Like, in terms of,
She got to go to Disneyland for free?
I mean, that's pretty good. Disneyland is expensive.
How's that not worth it?
Yeah, you're right.
Marvel Studios has put an incredible amount of movies and television out over the last several years. But at what cost? Numerous reports have hit lately that original artists and writers for Marvel Comics have gotten little in the way of compensation or recognition for their work. Can anything be done? Watch the video to find out what we think. Today we are going to talk about a more serious topic in terms of Marvel Studios and Marvel movies and Marvel TV shows and Marvel in general. And it's the question of whether or not Marvel, and I guess to a larger extent Disney as the corporate parent, is exploiting the artists who create the content on which the most successful movie franchise ever rests. There was an article in Hyperallergic, a magazine about the arts and about artists, for artists, very recently, that basically asks that question, and we're going to talk about it now. And it cites 4 really good recent examples. There was an artist named Esad Ribic who did pencils for a Thor comic book, and one of his panels was kind of like detail for detail transposed into the new Thor Love and Thunder trailer. We got Joe Casey, the creator of America Chavez, who recently went on record saying that he refused a payment from Marvel for use of that character in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, basically saying it was insulting. We've got Ed Brubaker, the creator of The Winter Soldier, saying he's earned more on his SAG residuals for a cameo in Falcon and the Winter Soldier than he did for the actual creation of the character. And we got David Aja, who was the illustrator on Hawkeye, whose designs were used in tons of promotional material and just a lot of the look of the Hawkeye show. So there's a lot of really valid concerns about this exploitation issue. And I just wanted to talk a bit about it and maybe shed a little bit of light on it, because I feel like, the best we can do. Yeah, I mean, let's talk about it. I don't know. Nina, what are your thoughts about this?
Well, I mean, I think I've heard Joe Casey's name before. I'm not familiar with these other artists, and I don't read the comics as voraciously as you two, and for that I apologize going into this conversation. But
it's fine.
This is not new behavior on the part of Disney. I think we chatted about this once, but P.L. Travers, who wrote the Mary Poppins book, felt like her vision was really distorted, and I don't think she was even invited to the film's premiere. Like, she got to go to Disneyland for free, and that was about it. Like, in terms of,
She got to go to Disneyland for free?
I mean, that's pretty good. Disneyland is expensive.
How's that not worth it?
Yeah, you're right. And apparently she hated it.
Star Wars
she was like, this place
like
sucks.
$5,000 a weekend?
I don't think P.L. Travers was like a whimsical person from the sound of it, who would appreciate a trip to Disney. But no, and
She could have met Groot.
I think she was well before Groot's time.
Maybe not. Groot was created back in the 60s.
Oh, I guess so. But I mean, was Groot walking around?
Much,
also, Disney didn't own Marvel, so boom.
That's true. That you raise a good point. Go on.
Yeah.
Anyway.
You never know when there's going to be like a freak guy dressed up as Groot just wandering around an amusement park.
Everyone thinks he's Groot.
Tree.
He's actually just an Ent from Lord of the Rings. He's really mad about it.
He's just a hippie from Bakersfield.
So anyway, I mean, I'm not.
Ghillie suit.
So that's kind of a precedent that Disney has set. I mean, that's just one example of, I'm sure, many that aren't as well publicized. But then, from my perspective, if they were willing to, screw over Scarlett Johansson in releasing her movie to streaming rather than theatrically, keep pushing it back. Right. I mean, obviously things had to move around, when the pandemic was hitting big peaks, but, she did sue them, alleging a breach of contract. Is that correct?
Right.
And, it's just, I mean, Scarlett Johansson's one of the most recognizable movie stars in the world, one of the most bankable movie stars in the world. And they were able to pull that on her. So, unfortunately, Joe Casey doesn't have the same star power as Scarlett Johansson. That's just
maybe not to you.
Unfortunately, even if it were that way to me, I'm sure it's not that way to most people. But yeah, so I mean, I think Disney in particular, I'm going to place this on them rather than kind of the Marvel machine, because I think they're pretty brazen about their bottom line and just kind of taking what they want.
Yeah. Tom, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, the obvious solution to me is to get every comic book writer and artist an active SAG membership and get him those residuals we were talking about. I don't know.
Cast him in cameos every time.
Yeah.
Every single time, yeah. No, anytime that there's like a group background shot, we get a bunch of out of work writers and artists. We've talked about this before. I mean, it sucks. It's David versus Goliath situation. And anytime historically that the artists and writers have tried to go off and do their own thing, they wind up getting squashed. Image Comics back in the 90s was the obvious example. A bunch of artists and writers got tired of Marvel taking advantage of them and didn't like being work for hire, which is
right
how all of this works, right? Like Marvel pays creative people to create something, and then essentially, they're buying the rights to that thing that got made.
And to your point, legally speaking, again, to play devil's advocate here, legally speaking, Marvel and Disney are in the clear, right? Like these creations. Right. I mean, Winter Soldier, even specifically, Winter Soldier as a character is just an evolution of the Bucky character that was created back in the 40s. So there's even less of a claim there for Ed Brubaker to make that his work is, that he's not being compensated fairly. Then again, of course, I am playing devil's advocate, and I do think that all of these people should get a lot more compensation than they're getting. Reportedly, they're getting a check for $5,000, special thanks in the credits, and an invitation to the premiere. Not a paid offer, but an invitation to come out there on your own dime. Stay in the hotel on your own dime, presumably with that $5,000.
That stinks.
Again, this is what I've read. I don't know for sure, but as far as solutions go, it seems like there's not a lot we as fans can do other than everybody just saying like we are boycotting this franchise until this changes, which doesn't seem like it's likely to happen because for every person who talks about this, every report that comes out, there's dozens, thousands of people more who don't care. They just don't give a crap about that stuff. But it seems to me that in terms of maintaining good press and staying, positive in the hearts of true fans, it wouldn't take that much to fix this. And if it was just a question of like, hey, every creator who's worked on this stuff, whose stuff we're pulling from, if they're still alive, give them a more money, give them a better check, maybe invite them to, break the story with the design team or the writing team. If they're an illustrator, bring them in to work with the, the designers, the concept artists, stuff like that. Give them the credit that they deserve, just like any other, concept artist who works on the MCU movies. These people do this stuff for a living. And if you're going to take a comic book panel that someone got, $500 for and put it in your movie trailer to build hype for your next big blockbuster, that seems like you owe that guy a lot more than a check for $5,000. Like, that's all. Yeah. I just feel like the solution, obviously it's a lot of money to you and to me and these comic artists, but to Disney as a corporation, it's a drop in the bucket. Right. It's nothing. So it would be life-changing.
I mean, when you were like, legally they're in the clear, but ethically, like we all know, it's just right. Corporate greed when you boil it down. And like, I think Disney can spare a better paycheck for people.
Absolutely.
I suspect it's possible.
I mean, they're not, I'm not even saying like, give them residuals like that, and even that wouldn't be that out of the question, honestly. It's just, there's a lot of ways in which the people who make this stuff are legitimately exploited. And I don't think that these people are starving or anything like that, but it would be the kind of thing that could change your career for the better. Like imagine Esad Ribic gets called in to work as a concept artist for Marvel Studios and gets to do that work off the back of this. As far as I know, that hasn't happened. But again, if you're going to take this guy's designs and put them in your movie straight up, like that's a person you want working on your movie directly. Like imagine what great stuff he's going to come up with the kind of freedom and resources that come with working on one of these giant movies. Call in Ed Brubaker and Joe Casey to help with your story. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness story is not, it's not Shakespeare. Get someone in, hire them as a consultant, hire Joe Casey as a consultant, give him a better payday and give him a bigger credit. He helped create one of the major stars of this of this story who we're presumably going to see again in a future project, America Chavez. There's action figures, like you can afford it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really hope that something happens. And, obviously there's not a lot that we can do other than talk about it and bring attention to it and hope that Disney does the right thing in the future.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching Everything Marvel. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more videos about your favorite Marvel stuff is coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.